Welcome to the Wolverine Confidential podcast brought to you by Corewell Health. I am Andrew Kahn. Sherrone Moore has been fired as Michigan's head football coach for an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. What do we make of this shocking news, and where does Michigan go from here? It's an emergency episode of Wolverine Confidential. Aaron McMahon and Ryan Zook, good to be talking with you here late Wednesday night, December 10th. It is an emergency episode of Wolverine Confidential. Sound the sirens. Sherrone Moore, as of Wednesday evening, out as Michigan's football coach. The statement from athletic director Ward Manuel is this: Sherrone Moore has been terminated with cause, effective immediately. Following a university investigation, credible evidence was found that Coach Moore engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. This conduct constitutes a clear violation of university policy, and Michigan maintains zero tolerance for such behavior. First question for you guys: did this come out of the blue?
No. There have been rumblings about this for months now. Extramarital affairs, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to something like this, it's hard to pin down just from if you're pulling down the curtain a little bit for the journalistic side of this thing. You need proof of something like this. You hear a lot of things, some of it true, some of it not. During our, in our jobs, and it varies, and all kinds of different accusations and rumors and everything. But this was something that had been rumbling now for a few months. It had kind of leaked into social media, especially the last month. It was addressed on message boards and quote unquote credible news outlets that cover the program. And yet here we are Wednesday evening talking about this. From what I understand, it came pretty quickly. Michigan executed a investigation into this, and they determined that Sherrone had basically violated university policy. It's not against the law to have a relationship with someone that you work with, but it can be against policy. And in this case, University of Michigan determined this was inappropriate. We don't want any part of this, and we are terminating you. And that's the key there, right? For cause, so they don't have to pay the remainder of his contract.
Yeah, like Aaron said, and I guess I just find it the timing is really interesting too, because it comes exactly 1 week after signing day. I mean, Michigan just signed a whole new batch of 27 new recruits. He just hired Kerry Coombs as special teams coordinator. He was asked on Monday if he anticipated any other changes to his staff before next season, and said no. So in that regards, it's very surprising. But like Aaron said, there has been some rumblings behind the scenes of potential, potential misconduct going on. But again, it's difficult waters to navigate, and without much proof. And Michigan apparently found some this week and acted quickly, but still just a wild timing for this all to go down.
So Biff Poggi named as the interim head coach, which I think is a really good thing to have someone like him in this case, because he's not someone who's vying for the job of Michigan head coach. I mean, sure, if they told him, hey, we're going to kind of punt on this year and let you be the guy for a whole season, which again we'll discuss here. I don't think they're going to do. He'd do it, I think, and be happy to do it. But like, yeah, he's not a guy who's got to like try to is going to be competing maybe with external candidates. So I think he's someone who can genuinely try to keep this roster, keep this program together. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind, as I'm sure it did for a lot of people that care about Michigan football in some way, what's Bryce Underwood's contract looking like? Have either you guys seen it to know what there's a clause about the head coach? Because I've tried to get my hands on it and have been unsuccessful.
No, I have not seen it, but it is notable that most of Michigan's assistants do have clauses in their contract that if the head coach is fired for a cause, they have the opportunity to get out of their contracts, and surely they'll probably be looking to do so. Many of them looking to go elsewhere when a coaching change is made. But it made sense, right? Biff coached 2 games already this year when Sherrone had to sit out for the rules violations with the NCAA sign stealing investigation. So it's a natural move. It makes a whole lot of sense. He's a calming voice and kind of keep this thing together, at least theoretically, here for the next couple of weeks. But again, like, the a lot of these players, it would not surprise me if some of them hit the portal or looking to make a move elsewhere, looking to next year, and they're going to be looking for other spots. It's important to point out the transfer portal does not open until January 2nd, and Michigan players won't be allowed to enter until after Michigan has a new head coach in place. So there's going to be some time there where guys are going to have to make decisions. Now, will this impact the number of guys who choose to sit out the bowl game? I don't know. That'll be something we're going to obviously monitor in the next couple of weeks, but it's a very weird situation, right? Typically, when you see coaches fired, it's for on-field performance, not something like this. So it's a tricky situation Ward Manuel finds himself in. This is the kind of at the very end of the coaching carousel that's was kind of pushed up this year. So maybe the lack of candidates may hurt him, but either way, he's gonna have to search for a new head coach, whether it's in house or someone on the outside.
Yeah, these next few weeks for Michigan football are probably going to be the most important 3 weeks in the program, and I don't even know how long. I mean, even when Jim Harbaugh left, you're still coming off a national title. You have guys that want to stay because of the culture and the familiarity with Sherrone. Now it just seems like there's uncertainty everywhere when as far as recruits, assistants, just the timing with the transfer portal. It's just so much up in the air, and yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Michigan to make a good move here, and it will be fascinating to see what happens. But I would not be surprised if is some movement with players and coaches and recruits.
How do you kind of sum up Sherrone Moore's tenure at Michigan? If we give the obituary here for his time, I mean, again, came on as an assistant after a run at several other programs, most recently Central Michigan, before joining Jim Harbaugh's staff in 2018, and then was there for some of the dark years for the program, but as he took on a bigger role, whether it's the offensive line or eventually, offensive coordinator position, Michigan started its run of winning Big Ten titles there, 21, 22, 23. Obviously played a big part in that 2023 national championship season, whether as the offensive coordinator or filling in as the head coach for those late regular season games. But had some suspensions too along the way for various things. And never got a chance to really cement himself as a head coach. 8-5 last year, and that was only after a couple of miracle wins to end the year. And now a very, as we discussed on the last podcast, kind of meh 9-3, right? Didn't get any marquee wins. So it's a tenure that never really got off the ground, in my opinion.
No, complicated, right? Like he will be looked at as one of Michigan's prized assistants during the Harbaugh era. Someone who moved up the chain relatively quickly and had a big hand in their success. I mean, he mentored the offensive line to built them into what they ended up being in 2023, and was the primary play caller that year, the national championship year. In fact, he was head coach a couple times too. So there will be some good things to remember from that tenure. But it seemed like once he got into the head coaching position, in 2024, and we talked about this in the past, he was very much learning on the job, learning how to be a head coach, learning how to manage a program, learning what it took to manage a roster. And we saw some ups and downs, right? We saw some mistakes made on the field. We saw some surprise wins. And you can make the case that 2025 was a disappointing performance with their 9-3 record, and maybe some of the struggles with Bryce Underwood and the offense along the way. But unfortunately for Sherrone, I think this is what's going to cloud his legacy moving forward. Everyone's going to point back to this. There are reports out now this evening that he's in police custody. We don't know for what yet. We're still waiting on the details there. I hope everything's okay, but given the situation, you can only wonder what's going on. So he's got some issues to deal with. Clearly, Michigan. I'm waiting to see the details on the Michigan investigation and what they found. But his future in college football is in doubt at this point. Remember, I mean, he's facing a 2-year show cause ban from the second NCAA investigation he was suspended for. So even if he wanted to get another job in the college ranks the next couple of years, he's probably not going to be able to. So we're going to see where the situation goes from here, especially from a police standpoint. But as far as we know, as we sit here Wednesday evening, he's no longer the head coach at the University of Michigan.
Yes, the man who was the head coach of Michigan football earlier today was detained by police, and it took us 9 minutes into our podcast episode to mention it. That's what kind of day it's been for this Michigan football program.
Yeah, it's been a wild one. Not something, we talked, we heard rumors like of all this stuff going on, but you didn't expect it to go down like this so suddenly. It makes me wonder if Sherrone was even aware that he was under a university investigation. As Ryan mentioned earlier, he made a special teams hire last weekend, expecting to move forward with Kerry Coombs. There was talk of bringing in another quarterbacks coach to help Bryce Underwood. So he was kind of operating as if he was going to stick around and continue to be the head coach. But obviously, Ward Manuel, Michigan's athletic director, and their staff decided otherwise. So we'll see where things go from here. You're going to see a lot of movement, both from a roster standpoint and a coaching standpoint, because I think the offseason is just getting started, and it's going to be a very busy one.
To me, it's just kind of disappointing over how many times over the past couple of years we heard about what it means to be a Michigan man and the culture and just straining with each other and loving on each other and part of the program and just and just touting all this stuff, and then just for this to come out and it to end this abruptly. It's kind of just like a lot of empty calories, a lot of empty words from him over his 2 years now, and to see it kind of just crash and burn into a fireball like this is pretty shocking.
Yep. Monday he's talking about Texas. In the Citrus Bowl. He's talking about the recruiting class he just signed, and now 48 hours later he's out as Michigan's head coach. Uh, let's get into it, man. Where does Michigan football go from here? Because as you guys mentioned, here we are. It's December 10th. Like the carousel has been spinning now for a long time, and Michigan State fired their coach and hired a new coach. UCLA did the same. LSU has done the same. Florida has done the same. Auburn, uh, Arkansas. Should I continue? Like, there's a lot of programs. Penn State took a guy that I know we were mentioning for Michigan's job. A few years back when Jim Harbaugh was on the hot seat. So, like, I don't know. I'm not really sure where they go. I've got a list of names here, but yeah, this is like not ideal timing, regardless.
It's not, any of a lot of those high priced, coaches, those high name value, experienced, successful guys are pretty much off the market at this point. So it's going to take Michigan either keeping it in house for as a temporary solution, or trying to pluck one of those top guys from another program, or going to find some up and comer maybe that they're really impressed with at the lower ranks that will certainly leave for more money and a bigger opportunity. So it's not all doom and gloom for Ward Manuel. I mean, Michigan does sell itself. It is the Big Ten. It's going to be a high priced position. So there will be opportunities there, but there's certainly the market isn't what it was. I mean, just a few weeks ago. So it's going to be interesting here the next 30 days. My assumption is Michigan probably wants someone in place here by the time the transfer portal opens early January, just so they can kind of get an idea of where the roster is, because that's going to be key here in the next month, right? It's trying to keep intact your roster, keep the guys, the foundational pieces that are here that are playing well in the fold, because there's a potential this blows up, right? Like other programs could be trying to hit up Bryce Underwood right now. They could be trying to convince Justice Haynes to transfer. They could be looking at Andrew Marsh and say, "Hey, man, you don't know who your coach is next month or next year. Come play with us," and they could still get
Savian Hyder.
safe, right.
Yeah, that
So
too.
there's a lot of possibilities here where this roster could get completely blown up here. Now, fortunately for Michigan, as I said, this is the Big Ten. There's a guaranteed money here, so guys may stay for that. But with the uncertainty of head coach, it leaves, I mean, a lot of things open.
Zook, give me some names.
Yeah, I mean, it is really tough because it's like, what would Michigan have to offer, and them leaving their current position would kind of screw over their current post too. I mean, you look at, and there's nobody on their current staff right now that you would say, oh, they can promote, and like he's a logical head coaching candidate. So it seems like they have to go external this time around. A few guys that kind of catch my eye, maybe Jed Fish, obviously ties to the program, the current Washington head coach. I mean, Jesse Minter, but again, he's a defensive coordinator for the Chargers and Harbaugh right now, a Chargers team that's going to make the playoffs. And people are talking about him as a potential head coach in the NFL too. Would he want to come back to college? I'm not sure. A big one, I mean, a lot that I've seen floated out there is Alabama coach Kalen DeBoer. If I think he's a fantastic candidate. I think he would fit in well here. But again, he led Alabama to the playoffs this year, and he's going to play in the playoffs against Oklahoma. I mean, I guess if you're a Michigan fan and want him, you're becoming a huge Oklahoma fan here in a week or so. But yeah, it's and then I guess the last one, Arizona State's head coach. I'm just blanking on his name really quick. Yes, yes. Yeah, that's another potential. I think he's a good recruiter, great with quarterback development. But again, yeah, there's kind of flaws with all these as far as would they be willing to take the Michigan job, what Michigan would have to give up, and just the timelines with everything too.
I think if you're Michigan, you make Kalen DeBoer say no. He's under pressure right now. Tuscaloosa, as you said, if they lose to Oklahoma in the first round of the playoff, his butt is going to get hot. I think it's already hot there in Alabama. I don't know if he realized what he signed up for, but the pressure is high down there. You're following Nick Saban. There hasn't been that immediate success. I think that that maybe some fans down there expected. If he's looking for a way out, a roadmap out of Tuscaloosa, Michigan could certainly be it. Now, whether he entertains the offer, I don't know, but I would think if I'm Ward Manuel, he's your first guy. He's the person you go after and make him tell you no. I like your other options. I mean, Jed Fish is a logical option there. I mean, he's been at Michigan before. He knows the Big Ten. He knows what it takes. He's a good coach. I wouldn't be surprised if to see Michigan look at some of the other mid-tier names. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, I think, is an intriguing option. Jason Candle just took the UConn job. I think he would be open to coming to Michigan. Not he's not a sexy name, but he's a good coach and good talent developer. So there's some other names out there too that I think would certainly listen. Especially the mid to lower level guys that aren't making a ton of money and aren't at a huge school. They'd certainly listen to Michigan.
DeBoer was the guy I thought they should have got after Harbaugh left, but the timing just wasn't quite there by beating Alabama and advancing to the national championship. If I'm recalling, he kind of the pieces were in place there, and he was announced, if not before that national championship game, very closely after. So, and maybe he did kind of know he'd have his pick, and he preferred Alabama, but he might feel differently now. So I'm with you, Aaron, on it. At least that's got to be one of your top calls. Same with Minter, but again, as Ryan mentioned, he's a DC and a rising star, and he's got a show cause penalty at the college level. So, um, you know, uh,
It is important to point out with that, it was a one-year show cause penalty, and it would expire, I believe, in March or April. So, in theory, Michigan could hire him in a non-athletic spot and then decide to roll him into the head coaching spot in the summer. There'd be a lot of mental gymnastics there, but they could do it theoretically if they really wanted to.
and Fish has been good, but not great. Now, your thought might just be that he's got the football mind and that the resources at Michigan he can make it work. A couple other names I saw: Manny Diaz, who is at Duke right now, and has experience at major schools as well. Tommy Reese, the Cleveland Browns OC, who is young and former Notre Dame quarterback, and Zook gives a med to both those names. But yeah, like Matt Campbell, the guy that we mentioned again now at Penn State, like James Franklin, the ink's still dry on that contract with Virginia Tech. Maybe bring him bring him in.
Now that would
So
be
yeah, I don't.
something. Sign me up for that chaos.
I don't know. Yeah, what do you think it's Zook?
No, I think if with money not being an object, I think DeBoer would be my number one pick. And I remember too, after the first game of the year, seeing a local news clip of a woman in Alabama winning the lottery and being asked what she would do with the money, and I'd pay DeBoer's buyout and get him fired or something like that. So you could just tell it's just kind of an example of how much pressure there is to win down there. And I don't know if he's that type of fit for that market. But yeah, I think he's a great coach. I think he's great with media. Yeah, I think he would be a home run hire for Michigan. But again, it's how do you get him away from Tuscaloosa as well?
Yeah, not an ideal spot for the Michigan football program to be here on December 10th. At the same time, who knows? Who knows what we'll be saying a year or two down the line, because Sherrone Moore was going to be coaching the team for the third season here if this didn't happen. But how many fans were thrilled about that? Did you love the kind of trajectory of the program? What you saw the first 2 years? Again, I think it was like TBD, those magic 8 balls that you shake. Ask again later as far as like Sherrone Moore's grading his time at Michigan, but now there is no later. So now they've just got to make a decision, and the yeah, the sooner the better with the transfer portal and all that. And um, you know, last thing, who do you think is going to be making this decision? Is it? I mean, a lot of I think casual fans just the athletic director, right? But it's not always the case. It was last time, as far as what I learned, and I haven't dug into this yet to know if that'll be the case again.
Yeah, and it's certainly possible changes made. I mean, schools
Or just that instead it's a
a search
search
firm.
firm running the
Yeah.
job running or yeah, some prominent boosters or other parties.
I'll say this, a lot of athletic departments like to use search firms to just gather a bunch of names and for
Yep.
contact information, to reach out to agents or people behind the scenes that aren't necessarily directly, they're not directly reaching out to the coach. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. Guys under contract that maybe aren't allowed to talk, blah blah blah. But I don't know. It's funny because I was thinking about this earlier. you know, Going back I mean, the last few coaches have all had Michigan ties, save for, Rich Rodriguez. So Michigan has a track record of what, especially at for football, of wanting to hire that Michigan guy. Maybe didn't go here, didn't play here, but used to coach here. That makes me think Jed Fish is probably going to be someone that at least they reach out to and talk to. Whether he gets the job, I don't know, but it's weird. I mean, could John Harbaugh be a candidate here? Would he be willing to leave Baltimore? I don't know. But I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to watch play out here the next 30 days, because I think time is of the essence here for Michigan, especially with the calendar flipping so quickly.
Well, Michigan has a number one men's basketball team in the country, the number one hockey team in the country, a top 10 women's basketball team. So, it won't be a cold, dark winter in Ann Arbor, thanks to the teams that are actually competing. But kind of the premier sport at this university is in transition here. There's chaos, and we'll help you sort it all out here on the Wolverine Confidential podcast. You can read all our work. You'll see some head coaching candidate lists. You'll get the latest on Sherrone Moore's police situation on MLive.com/Wolverines. Thanks for listening.